We are born, we grow up, we love, we hope, we try to hold on. We cradle our dreams and clutch in our hands what we believe is precious. But one day, when we open our hands, we are shocked to find that everything is gradually dissolving. Like sand slipping through our fingers, the tighter we squeeze, the faster it flows away. Like water running across our palms, the more we try to hold it, the more it slips away. The love we thought would last forever fades. The health we once confidently called our own weakens. What we grasp eventually departs. Those we relied on as the firmest anchors in life leave us one by one. The success we took pride in vanishes in an instant. Status, wealth, fame, reputation, all are like sandcastles built on the shore, already beginning to collapse the moment they are raised. We cannot stop that current. We cannot keep anything unchanged. We keep walking within that cycle, trying to cling, yet everything slips from our hands. And in the moment we face loss, fracture, and separation, we suddenly ask, why is nothing complete? Why is even happiness uncertain? Why does the more we try to keep, the more we lose? That is not only your question or mine. It is the question that has echoed across ages and generations, ever since humans first became aware of life's incompleteness. More than 2,500 years ago, an extraordinary human being asked that very question. He did not only ask, but also sought an answer. After years of seeking, contemplating, practicing, and awakening, he declared, life is suffering. But the suffering, the Buddha pointed out, is not merely physical pain, not merely sadness in the heart, not merely failure, loss, poverty, or illness. That suffering is deeper, broader, and more encompassing. It is the nature of all conditioned existence, the characteristic of all compounded phenomena, the incompleteness, instability, fragility, imperfection, and unreliability of everything we call me, mine. Even the most beautiful and noble things do not escape that nature. Ajahn taught that everything comes and goes, everything arises and ceases. That is its nature, but we do not see that nature. We only see what we want to keep. And because we want to keep, we suffer. Precisely because we do not see impermanence, do not see the suffering nature of phenomena, we keep chasing, clinging, grasping, and craving. That very clinging is the seed of suffering. Have you ever felt it? The feeling when something you dearly love and are deeply attached to suddenly slips from your hands. The sense of hollowness, emptiness, confusion. The helplessness of watching what you try to hold on to drift away, disintegrate, and perish. That is exactly the suffering the Buddha wanted to point out. One need not wait until lost to see suffering. For even while holding, enjoying, and having, suffering is already lurking within like a shadow that never leaves. For that having, in the very moment it appears, has already begun to decay. In Buddhist teaching, suffering is not only the everyday pain everyone understands. It is a profound, subtle, and comprehensive truth, the inescapable, undeniable, non-negotiable nature of all conditioned existence. And precisely by looking directly at this truth, the Buddha opened a path, the path out of suffering. But liberation from suffering is not running away, not hiding, not negating. It is seeing clearly, understanding deeply, accepting that nature, and transcending it. This essay is not an ordinary talk, not a simple explanation, not a quick formula. This essay is a doorway. It is a door that needs to be opened many times, read many times, heard many times, contemplated many times. Each reading is a deeper look. Each hearing, a clearer seeing. Each contemplation, a step closer to the truth the Buddha wished to reveal. A truth not easy to hear, but necessary to hear. Not easy to accept, but necessary to face. Not easy to understand at once, but necessary to walk with patiently. The teaching on suffering is one of the most fundamental foundations, the first doorway to enter the path of awakening that the Buddha opened. In the Four Noble Truths, which he proclaimed after awakening, suffering is placed first as what must be clearly seen, thoroughly understood, and accepted before proceeding further on the journey to liberation. Suffering, or the noble truth of suffering, is not pessimism, not a hopeless proclamation, not a gloomy judgment about life. The noble truth of suffering is a truth that must be looked at directly, deeply, and without avoidance. Only when we clearly see suffering can we clearly see its cause. Only then can we find the path to its cessation. Only then can we step toward the place where suffering no longer exists. The Buddha said a moving and profound statement. Previously, I had never heard this Dhamma. Now I have seen suffering, seen the cause of suffering, seen the cessation of suffering, seen the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And throughout 45 years of teaching, though he spoke many things and taught many practices, he still affirmed, I teach only suffering and the end of suffering. This statement is not a limitation, but a powerful declaration and clear guidance that the entirety of his teachings, however vast and deep, ultimately converge on one aim: to see suffering clearly and to bring it to an end. Yet the suffering the Buddha taught is not the suffering we commonly understand. When hearing suffering, most people think of bodily pain, sadness of mind, failure, loss, and life's misfortunes. People call those suffering. Illness is suffering, poverty is suffering, separation is suffering, failure is suffering. But in Buddhism, suffering is not only painful sensations or sorrowful moods. It is the nature of all conditioned existence. Anything that is born, formed, fabricated, or constructed already carries within it the seed of suffering. There is no need to wait for failure or loss. Even while holding, having, and enjoying, suffering is quietly present. Arantacha once said something simple yet profound. Whatever has appeared is already on the way to dissolution. A quiet sentence, without condemnation or pessimism, simply stating what is true. And that truth is precisely the suffering the Buddha wanted to point out. A truth that does not depend on likes or dislikes, does not depend on subjective wishes, does not depend on anyone's craving. That suffering does not wait for our agreement, does not wait for our readiness. It proceeds as inevitably as the nature of fire is to be hot. The nature of water is to be wet. The nature of conditioned phenomena is to be suffering. But because we do not see that nature, we keep chasing, clinging, and trying to preserve. That very chasing, clinging, and preserving thickens suffering, makes it adhere more tightly, and binds us more deeply. The Buddha did not deny joy, did not deny happiness, did not deny the good things in life. But he pointed out that such joys, such happiness, such good things are not stable, not permanent, not outside the nature of suffering. Therefore, the teaching on suffering is not meant to frighten us, not meant to make us pessimistic, not meant to force us to abandon life. It invites us to look more deeply, to see more widely, to understand more clearly. When we understand, we cling less, crave less, and attach less. As clinging, craving, and attachment lessen, the heart grows lighter, freer, and more peaceful. That is why suffering is placed as the first noble truth. Without seeing suffering and understanding suffering, we cannot begin the path to liberation. When we speak of suffering, most of us immediately think of negative feelings, sorrowful mental states, difficult circumstances, and obvious misfortunes. People often say, he is truly suffering because his family broke apart. She suffers greatly because illness torments her. I suffer because I lost my job, because of debt, because of troubled love. For the majority, suffering is what is apparent, easy to see, easy to feel, bound to loss, damage, and pain. Therefore, when hearing the Buddha declare that life is suffering, many have mistaken him as speaking only of the ordinary pains of human life. But if the teaching on suffering stopped there, it could not become a profound truth nor a doorway to the path of liberation. After all, who among us has not known suffering? Who has not experienced sadness, disappointment, and loss? If that were all, the Buddha would not have needed enlightenment to say it. That is why the suffering he pointed out is not only the ordinary pains of life, not only suffering caused by emotion or circumstance. That suffering is more encompassing, subtler, and more expansive. It is the nature of all conditioned existence. When the Buddha said life is suffering, he did not mean life is sometimes suffering, nor that some people suffer and some do not. He proclaimed a universal truth that spans all beings, all existences, all realms. Everything that is born, made, or formed through conditions carries the nature of suffering. Not only humans, but also heavens and dragons and spirits. Not only the poor, but also the rich. Not only the unsuccessful, but also the successful. There are no exceptions. that suffering does not lie in who hurts more, who loses more, or who endures more. It lies in the very nature of things as not stable, not self-governing, not complete. The most beautiful flower, from the moment it opens in splendor, has already begun to wither. The youngest and strongest person, even in the height of vigor, is day by day drawing closer to aging and decline. The most passionate love, even at its peak, already contains the seeds of separation and fading. The most perfect joy, at its very summit, has already begun to wane. Ajahn once said, "Sitting on the highest peak, seeing the abyss on both sides, you realize you are only midway." This saying reminds us that the very moment we feel at the pinnacle of happiness and security is precisely when we should be sober, because nothing can be kept forever. Since everything is impermanent, changing, and not autonomous, nothing can fully satisfy. And because it does not satisfy, does not go our way, cannot be held, all is suffering. The Buddha did not deny happiness, but he reminded us that such happiness is not enduring. The fact that it is not enduring is suffering, that it cannot be kept forever is suffering, that parting is inevitable is suffering. Suffering does not wait for the moment of collapse to appear. It is present from the very beginning. We simply do not see it or do not want to see it, so we assume it has not yet come. In truth, it is silently there from the first moment. In Buddhist teaching, suffering is not limited to painful sensations, negative mental states, or unfortunate situations. It is the nature of all conditioned phenomena, of everything that depends on conditions. One does not need to undergo tragedy or extreme pain to see it. One only needs to look deeply, carefully, and directly. Yet our minds are accustomed to clinging, to seeking certainty, to craving, so it is not easy to accept this truth. Mahasiddha once reminded us that it is not because you suffer a lot that you understand suffering. Only when you observe deeply, look carefully, and contemplate this reality do you truly see suffering. Therefore, suffering in Buddhism cannot be understood by ordinary feeling, nor merely through experiences of sadness, and certainly not by reason alone. It must be seen by wisdom, through continuous observation, with a vision that penetrates beyond the surface. For this reason, the teaching of suffering that the Buddha proclaimed is not easy to grasp at once with an ordinary intellect. It is not a simple logical proposition, not a snippet of information to memorize, not a slogan to repeat. It is a deep and subtle truth that must be viewed with awakened eyes, contemplated many times, and reflected upon step by step. The Buddha did not teach suffering as a blind belief, nor demand immediate acceptance. He simply invited us to look, to see, to recognize with our own inner experience. Ajahn once said, "Hear it once and understand a little, hear it twice and understand more deeply, hear it 10 times and grasp something of it. But you must live, look, and experience to truly understand." This saying reflects the true spirit of the teaching on suffering. Each time we hear, read, and ponder, a layer of ignorance is lifted a little more, little by little, until the truth gradually reveals itself. No one can force that understanding to come faster. No one can skip that process, because the suffering the Buddha pointed out is not somewhere far away nor in some abstract philosophy, but right in this body and mind, in every feeling, every thought, every daily event. Yet this seeing is veiled by habit, by prejudice, by clinging, by craving. We do not see because we do not want to see. We are afraid to see. We avoid that truth, or want to see only the pleasant, agreeable parts. Therefore, the teaching on suffering must be heard many times, read many times, and contemplated many times for it to gradually permeate, gradually transforming an old view into a new one. Mahasiddha reminds us that listening to the Dhamma is not to remember, but to see. See part of the truth, and then keep looking deeper. Each hearing is a new seeing, no time exactly the same as another. Thus, if you are reading this essay hoping for a quick answer, a simple formula, an immediate clear understanding, you may be disappointed. But if you read with an open mind, with patience, with reverence, you will find this is a doorway to pass through many times, each time a step closer to the truth. The suffering the Buddha pointed out is not only the feeling of suffering, not only the state of suffering, but the inescapable nature of all conditioned phenomena. This means that whatever is formed from conditions, whatever relies on other factors to exist, carries within it the quality of suffering. Not because it is bad or of lesser value, but because its nature is not self-governed, not stable, not fully responsive to anyone's desires. The Buddha does not compel us to despise life, withdraw from happiness, or deny joy. He invites us to look deeply, see clearly, and recognize the nature of things so that we cling less, crave less, and bind ourselves less. And precisely because it is difficult to accept and not easy to understand at once, the teaching on suffering requires patience, continual listening, and unceasing contemplation. Reading once is not enough. Hearing once is not understanding. Thinking once is not seeing. We must walk with it, live with it, and shine its light upon ourselves and upon life through each experience, each feeling, each change. That is why this essay is written as a journey. You are invited to walk together, to look, to listen, to contemplate. Each section is a stage of the road, each sentence a step. No step is superfluous, and no stretch of the road is meaningless. And to accompany this journey in a systematic way, so it does not lose its way amid the many layered depths of the teaching. This essay will guide you step by step, through each gate, through each layer of the teaching on suffering that the Buddha revealed. We will not hurry, not skip steps, not skim the surface. We will walk slowly but surely. Each step is a pause, a deep look, a contemplation. First, we will explore together the three kinds of suffering that the Buddha analyzed clearly in his discourses. These are not three separate woes, but three perspectives, three tiers, three layers of one single truth, each complementing and illuminating the others. These three are the suffering of suffering, the direct suffering that anyone easily recognizes, bodily pain, psychological sorrow, failure and loss, illness and separation. This is the suffering of being pressed, evident when we are harmed, when the weight bears down. The suffering of change, the suffering of breaking apart, decay, alteration, and loss. Even when we enjoy happiness, prosperity, and ease, that very joy and happiness already carry within them the seed of dissolution, for everything is impermanent. That joy will fade, that love will grow pale, that youth will wither. The suffering of change is hidden and subtle, yet no less pressing. The suffering of formations, the deepest, most subtle, and hardest to detect. This is the suffering that arises from the very nature of all existence as not self-governing, not stable, not under control, not steady. Even when we are not yet in pain, not yet bereaved, not yet broken, existence already bears the quality of pressure, constraint, and non-freedom. Simply because we have not seen or felt it, we mistake it for normal. In truth, all conditioned phenomena carry within them the suffering of formations. These three do not exist in isolation, but interweave, complement, and clarify one another. The suffering of suffering helps us recognize the obvious truth. The suffering of change helps us see the hidden underside of suffering. The suffering of formations helps us see down to the root, the deepest nature of suffering. From surface seeing to subtle seeing, from feeling to essence. This is the path the teaching on suffering invites us to walk. After we have gone through these three, the essay will lead you to a comprehensive and thorough conclusion. All conditioned phenomena are suffering. Nothing in this world, within the domain of arising, persisting, decaying, and ceasing, can stand outside that nature. There is no place, no state, no mode of existence beyond the circle of suffering. From there, the essay will bring you to a vision of nibbana, the only state beyond suffering. Unborn, unceasing, undecaying, unmade, unconditioned. Nibbana is not a place to hide, not a reward, not a consolation, but the ultimate truth, the extinguishing of every fire of suffering, the absence of all conditions that lead to suffering. Ansa once advised, do not rush to seek nibbana somewhere far away. Look straight at the truth of suffering. See suffering, understand suffering, let suffering soak in. When you clearly see suffering, you have already stepped into freedom. Therefore, this essay is not merely a lecture or a simple explanation, but an invitation to pause, to look, to contemplate. Not to hear for the sake of knowing, but to see. Not to learn more, but to live differently. Not to run away, but to stop, face, and transcend. If you are ready, that journey begins right here, in this very moment, with the very first look at the teaching on suffering. It does not promise comfort, but it promises a profound truth, a light essential to the path of liberation. When the Buddha spoke of the three kinds of suffering, he began with the kind closest to us, the easiest to notice and feel, the suffering of suffering. This is the suffering that most of us have experienced, are experiencing, or have witnessed others experience in daily life. It is the direct, obvious suffering that appears clearly in body and mind, the sensations of pain, discomfort, oppression, and sadness. This is the kind even a child can feel, and even someone who has not studied the Dhamma can recognize. Buddhist scriptures list the suffering of suffering through 8 principal sufferings: birth, aging, illness, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. This is not a dry philosophical catalog, but a set of very familiar experiences that everyone tastes at least once in life. We need not search far. By observing ourselves, our families, our friends, and the surrounding society, we will see this suffering present everywhere and at all times. It is the suffering of being born, of growing old, of falling ill, of facing death. It is the suffering of separation, of failure, of loss, of not attaining what we desire. It is the suffering of painful bodily sensations and of the inner tearing of the heart. Ansha once said, "As long as you have a body, you already carry suffering. This body is a burden to be borne. Indeed, from the very moment it is born, it carries within it the seeds of suffering. To be born is to be born with suffering. No one can avoid it. But this suffering does not stop at the body's sensations. It is also the sadness, the remorse, the worry, the heartbreak in the mind. When we are betrayed, we feel sad. When we lose a loved one, we feel pain. When we fail, we feel discouraged. When we feel unrecognized, we feel slighted. All these feelings are concrete manifestations of the suffering of suffering. Because it is easy to see and feel, this kind of suffering is commonly acknowledged and accepted. Everyone understands that life contains suffering, but most stop at recognizing only these obvious forms. Mahiz once reminded us, "People think suffering is when we hurt, when we cry, when we lose, but that is only the outer shell of suffering. Seeing this layer is only the first step. Therefore, understanding the suffering of suffering is the first step, the necessary foundation for going deeper into the other layers. If we cannot recognize these evident sufferings, we will not be able to understand the suffering of change or the suffering of formations, which are subtler. The suffering of suffering is thus the easily seen surface, yet no less real. It reminds us that no one can avoid pain, and no one can live a life without tasting loss, disappointment, and sorrow. The Buddha did not teach to make us pessimistic, but to prevent us from living in delusion, to stop us from thinking we can construct a life entirely free of suffering. Precisely by seeing suffering clearly do we begin to seek a true way out, rather than chasing temporary, superficial fixes. Ansha said, "This life is like a house on fire. Knowing it is burning, you no longer want to decorate it or paint it. You only want to find a way out." Seeing the suffering of suffering is like realizing the house is on fire. It is an awakening insight, the vision that sets us on the search for a way out of the house, for an exit. If we have not seen it, we are still busy decorating, painting, and beautifying a burning house. That is precisely the delusion the Buddha wished to warn us about. To understand the suffering of suffering clearly, the Buddha analyzed it through 4 fundamental sufferings: the suffering of birth, the suffering of aging, the suffering of illness, and the suffering of death. These are not merely separate states, but inevitable stages in the life of anyone, regardless of wealth or poverty, status, education, or religion. Everyone born into this world carries the marks of these 4 sufferings. The suffering of birth is the first suffering. When a life begins, a journey of endurance begins as well. The Buddha described birth not only as a happy moment, but one accompanied by blood, tears, cries, and helplessness. The infant, the moment it is born, bursts into tears. That cry signals the beginning of suffering, the start of a journey facing impermanence and dissatisfaction. Birth is the appearance in a life that does not go according to our will, not self-governed. dependent on parents, circumstances, environment, and conditions. No one chooses where they are born, the family they are born into, or the body they carry. To be born is to stand helpless before many things already set. Ansha said, "We come into this world without the right to choose, but once we have arrived, everything falls upon our shoulders." That suffering begins from the very first moment. The suffering of aging is the suffering of a body that gradually weakens, losing flexibility, strength, and confidence. There are things one could do in youth that, at a certain age, one simply cannot. There are dreams and ambitions we once believed we had the power to realize, but then age wears us down. Our strength diminishes, our eyes grow dim, our hands tremble, our memory falters. An old meditation master once shared, "When you are young, you think you are immortal, but one day you realize only a fragile frame of bones is holding up your whole life." The suffering of aging is not only of the body, it is also the sadness of parting, the regret, the pain of watching friends leave one by one, of seeing your own remaining days shorten. Aging is a process that cannot be reversed or avoided, and because it cannot be avoided, it is suffering. The suffering of illness is the suffering when the body is in pain, when cells and organs turn against us, when aching, discomfort, and fatigue exhaust us. No one wants illness, no one wishes for it, yet illness arrives as an inevitable part of this body. However carefully we care for it, however wealthy we are, however advanced our medicines, illness still comes in its own way. The once robust person suddenly lies bedridden. The once healthy person suddenly needs ventilators and 4 lines. This body is a burden. It needs food, sleep, medicine, and treatment. If you do not see the body as a burden, you will suffer greatly when illness comes. Illness not only pains the body, it also wearies the mind, making us feel helpless, dependent, no longer in control. The suffering of death is the final suffering among the 4 great sufferings. Death is the ending, the separation, the leaving behind, the dissolution of everything we once held. No one wants to die, no one wants to part from what they love. Death makes no appointment, chooses no date, grants no extra chances. It places a period at the end of every dream, every plan, every ambition. The Buddha taught, all beings must die, no one can escape death. And precisely because it cannot be avoided or controlled, death becomes a great suffering, a silent obsession, an invisible anxiety that follows us all our lives. Ansha advised, "You think you have plenty of time, but in truth, each passing day is one day closer to death. Understanding this is not to be afraid, but to learn to cherish, to cling less, to live more lightly." These 4 sufferings, birth, aging, illness, and death, are not merely events, but processes and truths. They remind us that this life is not perfect, not enduring, not complete. And because it is not perfect, not enduring, not complete, every moment of existence carries the seed of suffering, whether we recognize it or not, whether we accept it yet or not. Alongside the bodily sufferings that can be seen and sensed with the faculties, the suffering of suffering is also hidden deep within the emotions and mental states we all experience. Sadness, worry, fear, disappointment, anger, remorse, envy. All those feelings of insecurity and dissatisfaction are an inseparable part of this suffering. These are sufferings that may not cause physical pain, yet they erode the spirit, wear down our vitality, and leave us feeling empty, tired, and directionless. The scriptures call these sorrow, lamentation, anxiety, and inner anguish. Sorrow is sadness and gnawing regret. Lamentation is grieving and mourning. Anxiety is worry and unease. Inner anguish is the pressure and torment within. These 4 states turn and intertwine, blending into a stream of continual suffering that is not easy to escape. Our bodies may no longer hurt, but the mind still writhes, still bears invisible wounds. Ajahn once shared, when the mind is dissatisfied, it suffers. When it wants and does not get, it suffers. When it gets and fears losing, it also suffers. This statement reaches the very root of mental suffering. Indeed, just one unfulfilled desire unsettles the mind. A single hurtful word makes the heart ache. One cold glance brings unease. Suffering does not need great upheavals to appear. It hides in the smallest details, in each moment of interaction, in our daily exchanges. Suffering in emotional and psychological life does not appear only at the time of loss, separation, or failure. Even while we have and hold, it already contains the fear of losing, the worry of dissolving, the insecurity of uncertainty. A person who loves deeply may be happy when together, yet simultaneously fear the day of parting. One who gains success, status, and wealth may constantly dread losing reputation, money, or power. Thus, even within happiness, suffering lurks, silently clinging to us. Mahasiddhartha emphasized, it is not only when we are sad that we suffer. Even in joy, the seeds of suffering are present, because that joy does not last, because the mind fears losing it, because the mind cannot control it. We often think only heartbreak, job loss, financial failure, or betrayal brings suffering. But in fact, even while loving, succeeding, and enjoying, suffering is already there. It does not reveal itself clearly, but lies quietly beneath like an underground current. Suffering in the mind also appears through unmet expectations, unrealized dreams, comparisons with others, feelings of inferiority and low self-worth, regret over the past, and worry about the future. We torment ourselves over what is already past, and we make ourselves suffer over what is not yet come. A mind that darts to the past is bound by regret. A mind that reaches toward the future is bound by anxiety. It is very rare for the mind to pause and be at ease in the present. On once said the mind is like a monkey leaping from branch to branch. None of the branches is secure, yet it never stops jumping. And because it never stops, it grows exhausted. That image precisely reflects the restless, dissatisfied, suffering nature of the mind. We are always seeking a place to cling to, but nowhere is stable. Always seeking a sense of safety, but everywhere is provisional. Unable to find a firm support, the mind keeps wavering, uneasy, and suffering. Thus, psychological suffering is both familiar and complex, both obvious and subtle. It does not appear only in major upheavals, but threads through every relationship, every expectation, every dream, every small daily disappointment. It is the sigh when we see ourselves as less than others, the downcast eyes at a critical remark, the emptiness after a success we thought would bring happiness. In this way, the suffering of suffering is not only the body's pain, but also the mind's pain, not only physical wounds, but wounds of the spirit, not only the drop of blood that falls, but also the silent tear within. The Buddha pointed to this suffering not to drive us to despair, but to awaken us, to know that no one is exempt. Seeing suffering clearly, we begin to crave less, cling less, expect less. And from there, the heart grows lighter and the steps more at ease. To see more clearly, this suffering is not an abstract concept or a distant theory. We can look at the life around us, at real stories, real people, concrete situations, the tears that have fallen, the sighs that have been released. For this suffering is not far away, not hidden in books. It is right beside us, in each familiar person, in our very selves. Imagine a woman who has just lost her husband after a fierce illness. He was her support, her shoulder, the love of her life. When he is gone, she loses not only a partner, but a part of herself, half of her world. The pain is not just tears on the cheek, but a hollowness spreading through the chest, sleepless nights, mornings of waking to no one at her side. That is direct suffering, clear, immediate, impossible to hide. Or a young man who has just discovered he has a terminal illness. He is only in his 30s, full of dreams, plans, and ambitions. He has just been promoted, just bought his dream home, just recently married. Then suddenly a medical diagnosis overturns everything. He suffers not only in the body, but also because he sees his dreams collapsing, time shortening, and what he has built turning into a burden on others. That too is suffering. Both the pain of the body and the despair, shock, and helplessness within. A young woman is betrayed by the one she loves. She once believed the love would endure, once dreamed of a happy home, once placed all her trust, hope, and heart in him. Discovering his deceit, she feels as if plunging into a chasm. She cries until no tears remain, not only for the loss of a person, but for the loss of trust, the loss of hope, the loss of herself within that love. This is suffering, the pain of breaking, of grief, of betrayal. Ahansha once said, "Everyone must weep at least once for something they could not keep." Those tears are living proof of suffering. No one escapes. No one is immune. And not only humans. Look at a dog whimpering after an accident, a bird struggling in injury, a creature dying slowly in the wild. You will see that suffering is not limited to humans, but extends over all sentient beings. Anyone with a body and the faculty of touch can feel pain and carries this suffering. Suffering also appears in quieter, more hidden lives. An elderly person living alone with no one to care for them. Solitary dinners over cold rice. Long nights of wakefulness listening to the seconds tick by. An orphan child sits silently by a school wall, watching classmates go home with their parents. A poor worker toils from dawn to dusk, yet still cannot afford medicine for their child. Each story is a sad refrain, a slice of suffering. Mahasi Sayadaw taught, when you open your eyes, suffering is everywhere. No one does not suffer. The only difference is who is aware and who is not. Indeed, suffering does not distinguish class, wealth, or age. It slips from luxurious villas to humble thatched roofs, from the famous to the ordinary. Those with better conditions simply hide it better, but the suffering remains. And precisely because this suffering is so obvious and pervasive, many think it is the whole truth. But the Buddha did not stop there. He showed that this is only the outer shell, the first doorway. Behind it lie deeper, subtler, more concealed layers, the suffering of change and the suffering of formations. If we do not see and recognize this first kind of suffering, we will lack the motivation to look deeper and continue the journey of understanding existence's most profound nature. After examining each aspect, manifestation, and concrete story of this immediate suffering, we can recognize something. It is the most easily seen, the most familiar, the most apparent layer of suffering in everyone's life. It lies right in the sensations of the body, in the feelings of the heart, in each daily experience. No esoteric wisdom or delicate contemplation is required. Anyone can perceive it, to a lesser or greater degree, clearly or faintly. For this reason, the Buddha placed this suffering as the first step in the teaching on suffering, a doorway open to all. No one enters life without at least once experiencing bodily pain, spiritual disappointment, or the feeling of helplessness before an unforeseen event. This is the first station, the first truth that everyone encounters, even without studying the Dhamma, knowing the teaching, or having heard the scriptures. Ahansha once said, "You do not need anyone to teach you suffering. Life itself will teach you. Your body will teach you. Your heart will teach you." That saying reminds us that this immediate suffering is the first teacher of us all, the universal lesson everyone is required to learn. No one is exempt. No one can refuse. However wealthy, powerful, or famous one may be, one cannot avoid the body's pains, the wounds of the heart, the tears of a human life. Precisely because it is so obvious, so close, so manifest, many people think that direct suffering is the whole essence of suffering. They believe that as long as bodily pain is reduced, as long as emotional sorrow lessens, as long as life becomes more comfortable and happy, one has escaped suffering. But the Buddha taught that this direct suffering is only the outermost layer. Behind it lie deeper, subtler layers tied to the very nature of all conditioned phenomena. If we stop at direct suffering, we will forever chase surface solutions, treating symptoms without seeing the roots. Direct suffering is therefore the beginning, but not the end. It is what everyone sees, but not the final thing that must be seen. It is the first truth that opens our eyes, yet not the complete truth of the entire teaching on suffering. The Buddha used suffering as a doorway to lead us onward, to look more deeply and more broadly, to go beyond the surface and perceive the underlying strata of essence. Mahasi Sayadaw advised, when you see suffering at the first layer, do not stop, keep looking deeper. Behind that pain are truths that are deeper, more delicate, and harder to discern. Thus, understanding direct suffering is not to linger in sorrow or to accept a pessimistic fate, but to gain the motivation to seek a more profound path of liberation. Seeing the surface clearly, we begin to trust that if we have seen the first layer, we can certainly see the second, the third, and finally the whole essence. Therefore, direct suffering is not only a pain to be endured, but a signal to awaken, not only a burden to carry, but a bell of reminder. This life is not a place of refuge, not a lasting abode, not our true home. Seeing this clearly, the mind begins to cling less, begins to loosen its bonds, and begins to seek a path that is deeper, steadier, and more liberating. I'm taught that if you can see the suffering in life, you have already walked half the path. The remaining half is to look more deeply, contemplate more thoroughly, and pass through the subtler layers of suffering that the teaching gradually unfolds in the journey of wisdom. And that journey begins from a clear seeing. Obviously, direct suffering is the most visible surface layer, yet it cannot be taken lightly. After we have seen direct suffering, the evident pains of body and mind, the Buddha leads us deeper to behold a more delicate and quiet, yet more pervasive layer, the suffering of decay. If direct suffering is the pain of being wounded, of losing, of obvious injury, then the suffering of decay is the suffering of dissolution, of change, of non-endurance even within what we take to be happiness. The suffering of decay is the suffering hidden within the impermanent nature of all things. Whatever is born, formed, and exists already carries the seed of disintegration. Nothing remains the same, nothing stands still, nothing endures. The Buddha taught that whatever is impermanent is suffering. Because it is impermanent, it cannot be grasped. Because it cannot be held, the mind gives rise to worry, fear, and regret. The very fear of loss, the anxiety of loss, the sense of fragility and precariousness is the suffering of decay. Ajahn taught that when you have a beautiful flower, you are happy, yet that very happiness already contains sadness, because the flower is withering. With every passing moment, it draws closer to fading. This is the essence of the suffering of decay. Everything lovely, happy, and full, at the very moment of its presence, has already begun to dissolve. We rejoice in having, yet at the same time a subtle unease threads through us. Fear of losing, fear of change, fear of being unable to keep. And when loss truly comes, the pain breaks open. The suffering of decay does not show itself loudly like direct suffering. It is quiet and still, a slow current that erodes little by little. A love that was deep gradually grows pale. A body once strong gradually grows tired and weak. A company once flourishing gradually declines. A status once high is replaced. Even before loss arrives, we already carry the fear of loss. Even while holding, we already know the time will come when it is gone. Therefore, the joy is not complete, the happiness not complete, the trust not complete. Mahasi Sa reminded us, those who do not see impermanence assume this joy will last forever. Those who see impermanence see within joy the seeds of suffering. Understanding the suffering of decay is not to become gloomy or to deny joy, but to cherish, to let go, to prepare a mind that does not cling, does not grasp, does not live in illusion. Hence, the suffering of decay is not only the pain when a thing, a relationship, or a life position breaks apart. It is also the latent pain within the very process of disintegration even as it still exists. Seeing the suffering of decay, we begin to see more deeply the impermanent nature of all existence. We see more deeply the instability of everything we once considered mine and me. We see more deeply the fragility of joy, of happiness, and of all we hold dear. To understand the suffering of decay more clearly, look to the stories and circumstances close at hand in this very life. For this suffering is not a mere philosophical concept, but a real experience that quietly threads through every corner of life, every heartbeat, every tear after a smile. Imagine a couple passionately in love who once vowed to be together forever and promised to build a happy home. At first, their love was everything, their light, their hope, their drive. They shared all things, walked every step together, trusted completely. Yet with the years their love slowly faded. Sweet words turned curt, tender gestures became cold, shared dreams split into two separate paths. In the end, one leaves and the other remains, or both face each other in silence with nothing left to say. That is the suffering of decay. No one did anything wrong, no one tried to ruin it, yet the love dissolved. The dissolution did not come suddenly, but little by little, like a painted picture fading under sun and rain. On reminded us, it is not because the other person is bad, but because the nature of feeling is impermanent. And precisely because we did not see this from the beginning, when love fades we suffer, despair, accuse, and regret. We do not hurt only because we lost the other person, but because we lost the illusion that love would never change. That is the suffering of decay. Another example, a person once very strong and tireless, confident in their vigor. With the years, the eyes grow dim, the hands tremble, the steps slow, the back aches. What was once easy becomes difficult. One day they realize they can no longer climb the stairs as before, can no longer lift heavy things, can no longer keep late nights and early mornings as they used to. A sense of helplessness, regret, and sadness creeps in. Youth has passed, health has departed, what seemed permanent has become only memory. That is the suffering of decay. Not because today was especially harsh, but because day by day, little by little, this body wears down, thins out, and weakens. Maharishi Sada said, "When you are young, you think you are immortal. When you are old, you see this body is as fragile as the last leaf of autumn." The suffering of decay lies in each moment, each gray hair, each wrinkle, each bout of fatigue without reason. It does not crash in like a storm, but seeps in quietly and cannot be avoided. A person was once wealthy, standing at the peak of success, with fame, status, and power. Then an economic shock, a management mistake, a wrong decision gradually eroded their assets. The company went bankrupt, status wavered, friends and partners drifted away. One day, that person sits alone in an empty house, recalling the glorious days, feeling hollow, lost, and deflated. The suffering of decay is precisely the helplessness of watching what one built fall apart, what one once took pride in slip away. And the pain lies not only in the actual loss, but in the feeling of losing a part of oneself, a piece of identity, a measure of faith. Unwarned. When you are at the peak, remember you are already beginning to descend. When you are holding, know you will have to let go. Seeing the suffering of decay is not to be afraid or to despair, but to become more appreciative, more humble, less clinging. Because we understand that everything comes and goes, we feel gratitude while it remains and acceptance when it leaves. Thus, the suffering of decay is not only the pain of breaking apart, but also the fear that what we cherish is changing, fading, and slowly drifting away even before it is entirely lost. It is the suffering of a mother watching her child grow up and slip beyond her embrace. It is the suffering of a father realizing he is no longer the absolute role model in his child's eyes. It is the suffering of an artist seeing the halo dim, the audience thin out. It is the suffering of a lover when the beloved's gaze is no longer like the first day. The suffering of decay is hidden, subtle, quiet, but no less sharp. It does not strike us down with one heavy blow. It drains us little by little, day by day, moment by moment. And precisely because it is not loud, we easily forget it, overlook it, fail to notice it. Yet at some point, we suddenly look back and see that what we thought would last forever now lives only in memory. We find ourselves standing amid dissolutions we cannot hold back. That is the moment when the suffering of decay reveals itself most clearly. Throughout 45 years of teaching, the Buddha repeatedly reminded us of the impermanent nature of all phenomena, as a gentle yet profound warning, a bell calling the sleeper to awaken. Whatever is impermanent is suffering. This teaching resounds from the ancient discourses, echoing across generations, and still stirs us today. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha affirms, all formations are impermanent, all formations are suffering, all phenomena are non-self. Here, formations are conditioned things, phenomena that arise through the coming together of causes and conditions. Because they are impermanent, they cannot be kept, preserved, or controlled. Because they cannot be kept or preserved, the mind becomes uneasy, anxious, and sorrowful. That is the suffering of decay, the suffering embedded in the very fact of impermanence. Ajahn explained this in simple terms. If you understand impermanence, you will suffer less. If you want things never to change, you will suffer forever. Because everything changes, suffering arises when we demand it to stop, to stand still, to follow our will. But the law complies with no one. Everything goes on changing, breaking down, flowing away, indifferent to anyone's desires. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha also states, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. When this is seen with wisdom, the mind grows disenchanted and departs from suffering. This is the path of purity. This is not a verse meant to comfort, but a truth to be seen by direct insight, not merely by memory or rote learning. Only when we truly see impermanence in each breath, each moment, each event of our lives do we begin to cling less, grasp less, and suffer less. Maharishi Sayadaw emphasized, one who has not seen impermanence takes everything as real, as mine. One who has seen impermanence begins to see all things as merely temporary, borrowed, conditioned, and seeing them as conditioned. When conditions disperse, there is no one left to blame, no one to resent, no choking regret. Only understanding, acceptance, and gentle letting go. In the discourse on impermanence, the Buddha taught the monks, "Monks, contemplate this body as impermanent, contemplate feeling as impermanent, contemplate perception as impermanent, contemplate formations as impermanent, contemplate consciousness as impermanent. Because they are impermanent, anything that relies on them, clings to them, is also not stable. Because it is not stable, it must be lost, must part, must dissolve. And that very dissolution is the suffering of decay." Unconcluded, if you do not see impermanence, you will weep when you lose. If you do see impermanence, you will smile when you let go. That smile is not forced. It is the smile of one who understands deeply, accepts, and no longer resists the law. Seeing impermanence and seeing the suffering of decay is a crucial step on the path toward relinquishment, toward unconditioned peace. Thus, in every discourse and teaching, the suffering of decay is not presented as a cause for despair, but as a truth to be seen clearly, so we do not live in delusion, so we do not cling to what is dissolving day by day. Not to flee from life, but to live in the world without attachment and without being entangled in suffering. It is precisely this seeing that opens a new way of living, freer, lighter, more serene. The suffering of decay is not merely an ancient notion in the canon, confined to old stories. It threads through modern life today, amid the hurried pulse of the 21st century. However advanced society, medicine, and technology become, this suffering remains undiminished, only assuming new forms, more sophisticated, harder to recognize. Consider someone who has just lost their job after 10 years of dedication to a company. They were once an outstanding employee, praised, rewarded, trusted. Then, one day, leadership decides to downsize, and they are on the list. So much effort, hope, and commitment evaporates in an instant. Not only is income lost, but status, recognition, and the sense of worth. A void opens, a feeling of emptiness, isolation, and drift. This is the suffering of decay, not because there was never success, but precisely because there was, the loss cuts deeper and aches more. Or consider someone who has just achieved resounding success. A young entrepreneur making the Forbes list, an artist winning a prestigious award, an athlete breaking a world record. Joy bursts forth, admiration floods in, the spotlights shine from all sides. Yet only a short while later, the halo fades. People begin to forget. The media searches for a new face. Last year's award is no longer mentioned. One day, that person sits in a quiet room and asks, after this summit, who am I? What remains? A strange emptiness appears, a nameless sadness, a sense of loss in the midst of plenty. This, too, is the suffering of decay. The success still exists in the record books and in memory, but it has decayed in the current of time. Ajankara once reminded us that when you climb high, do not forget you are standing on a fragile branch. The higher you go, the stronger the wind. Success, fame, power, love, everything that brings happiness today already contains the seeds of decay tomorrow. Not because someone harms us, not because some force steals it away, but because that is their nature, impermanent, changing, dissolving. A person in the throes of passionate love feels the utmost happiness. Yet right within that happiness, a vague worry appears. Will this love endure? Will the other's heart change? Will tomorrow still be like today? And that very worry makes happiness incomplete, mixing joy with fear. That is the suffering of decay. One need not wait for a breakup to hurt. The pain has entered from the very first moment of love, when we sense what we could lose. In modern life, depression, stress, and anxiety do not appear only after failure, but even amid success and glory. Because once we have, we fear losing. Once we are high, we fear falling. Once we are loved, we fear losing sobriety. Once we are healthy, we fear illness. Once we are young, we fear aging. This is the hidden suffering of decay, quiet, subtle, yet no less pressing. Mahasi taught that if you want everything to stand still, you will suffer. If you know everything is changing, you will be lighter. But in this race of a society, everyone wants to hold, to cling, to make things unchanging. To be forever young, forever healthy, forever beautiful, forever loved, forever famous, forever successful. And that very desire unwittingly binds us to suffering. Understanding the suffering of decay does not make life gloomier. It makes the mind less expectant. It does not make us pessimistic. It makes us realistic. It does not estrange us from joy. It helps us cherish each moment that joy exists. Because we know it will decay, every moment of presence is precious. Because we know it will fade, each time we can still see, still touch, still love, still live, it is a gift. Ajanta smiled and said that the most beautiful flower is when it is still on the branch, yet you will love it more when you know tomorrow it will fall. And that very seeing makes love, appreciation, and gratitude deeper, not superficial. Seeing the suffering of decay does not make us avoid life. It helps us live in life with a lighter grip, with mindfulness, with eyes wide open to the nature of impermanence. After all that has been analyzed, looking back we can see an undeniable truth. Every happiness in this world, however radiant or great, carries within it the seeds of decay. Love, success, fame, power, wealth, health. Nothing is lasting. Nothing endures forever. Even today's joy has already begun to wane from the very moment it arose. That is the nature of the suffering of decay. Ajanta once said that when you hold a bouquet of flowers, do not forget it is already wilting. When you breathe in joy, do not forget it is already passing. Because everything is changing and dissolving. Every joy is uneasy. Every happiness is fragile. When we have not seen this, we assume happiness will be firm, secure, and long. But once we see, we know that nothing can be kept, nothing can be fully grasped, nothing will exist intact according to our wishes. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, all conditioned phenomena are suffering. When this is seen with wisdom, the mind becomes disenchanted and withdraws from suffering. This teaching is not to lead us into pessimism, but into wakefulness, not to make us weary of life, but to release clinging, not to make us avoid happiness, but to understand that such happiness is not the final refuge. When we have not seen the suffering of decay, we chase happiness, seek joy, gather success, accumulate wealth, and grip love. The more we hold, the more we fear losing. The more we have, the more we worry. The higher we stand, the more uneasy we become. Thus joy gradually turns into a burden, happiness into pressure. This is the subtle suffering of modern life, the suffering of one who is everything yet still feels empty, insecure, anxious, and afraid. Mahasi Sayadaw taught that nothing in this world can be kept. When you want to keep, you suffer. When you let go, you are light. The suffering of decay is not only the pain at the moment of loss. It is the suffering right within having, because we know it will be lost. This very insight helps us loosen our clinging, reduce identification, and abandon the confusion that this is mine, this is me. This assertion does not deny ordinary happiness or joy, but puts them in their proper place. They have value, but it is temporary value. They are precious, but not the ultimate foundation. They are beautiful, but not long-lasting. Seeing this, we live within happiness without clinging, live amid joy without losing ourselves, live in the world without forgetting the truth of impermanence. Ajanta smiles. When you see impermanence, you will smile even in the midst of decay. It is the smile of one no longer surprised when autumn leaves fall, no longer resentful when flowers wither, no longer regretful when dreams pass. Knowing that every conditioned happiness contains the seeds of decay, We cherish when it comes and release when it goes. This is the spirit of the suffering of decay in the Buddhist teaching. A truth to be seen clearly so that delusion lessens. A truth to be contemplated so that letting go arises. A truth to be accepted so that the heart becomes light. Seeing the suffering of decay does not make life less beautiful. It makes that beauty deeper, truer, and more precious. And when we see it, we take another step on the path of understanding suffering, a step closer to the doorway of inner freedom. Having seen direct suffering, the suffering of immediate feeling, and the suffering of decay, the Buddha leads us to an even deeper, subtler, more encompassing layer, the suffering of formations. If direct suffering is the surface layer, and the suffering of decay is the middle layer, then the suffering of formations is the deepest essence of suffering, lying within the very nature of all conditioned phenomena. The suffering of formations can be understood as the suffering that arises from the sheer existence of conditioned things. All objects and phenomena, whether small or great, material or mental, are formations, that is, things created by many factors and governed by conditions and supporting causes. Because they arise from conditions, they have no self-nature, no independence, no authority to govern themselves. In the very moment of existence, they are already subject to influence, alteration, wearing down, and pressure. That is the suffering of formations. Ajahn said that simply having this body is already suffering. You do not need to wait until pain arrives, nor until illness comes. In the fact of its existence, it is already a burden. This body, this mind, this feeling, this thought, all are formations. All are operating, changing, moving toward dissolution. And precisely because they must always flow, always function, always hold balance in order to persist, they already carry pressure. It is already a bearing up and endurance. The suffering of formations does not reveal itself through tears, nor announce itself by cries of pain. It is a silent weight, a persistent weariness, a constant unease. It is like someone who must forever hold a water jug in hand. At first it may be light, but the longer it is held, the heavier and more tiring it becomes. It cannot be put down, cannot be paused. As long as it is held, it must be endured. This is the suffering of having to maintain, to strive, to operate in order to continue existing. The Samyutta Nikaya records the Buddha's words, Sabsakar Dukkha, all formations are suffering, a short sentence that contains the whole vision of an awakened being. It is not only suffering when there is pain or when there is loss. It is that in the very fact of conditioned existence, in the very being of all compounded things, there is suffering. Mahasi Sayadaw explained, the suffering of formations is the foundational suffering, because all conditioned phenomena are formations. Without formations there is no suffering, but once there is formation, once there is ongoing operation, suffering is inescapable. This means we need not wait for a major event or a clear loss. The very acts of breathing, thinking, feeling, moving, living already carry the suffering of formations. This is the hardest layer of suffering to see and to accept. People commonly think, if there is no pain, there is no suffering. If nothing is lost, there is no suffering. If we are happy, suffering is gone. But in the eye of wisdom, even that happiness is not enduring, is changing, requires conditions to be maintained, and bears within it a quiet pressure. Therefore, nothing in the conditioned realm escapes the suffering of formations. Ajahn smiled. You are sitting still, yet your heart is beating, your blood is flowing, your cells are aging. Nothing stands still, and that very ongoing operation is suffering. This suffering is not a particular pain, but a natural law, an undeniable nature. Understanding the suffering of formations is a turning point in practice. No longer do we seek happiness in changing conditions. No longer do we cling to conditioned things. No longer do we hope to hold forever what is dissolving moment by moment. Seeing the suffering of formations, the mind begins to let go, more deeply, at the root, not only releasing objects, but also releasing craving itself and the idea of a self that owns and exists. To grasp the suffering of formations more deeply, we must look into the very nature of all things. Everything exists by conditions. All is dependently arisen, without any self-essence, without independent solidity. A flower, a house, a body, a thought, a feeling. None comes to be, persists, or sustains itself on its own. Each phenomenon must rely on hundreds, thousands of cooperating conditions to appear. Because it relies on conditions, existence itself is dependence, already precarious, already a silent burden. Antro once compared, everything is like a car assembled from many parts. If a part fails, the car stops. So it is for human beings and things alike. The existence of anything is not a fixed having, but an ongoing process. As process, it never stands still, never rests. It is always operating, always changing, always transforming, always moving, whether we want it or not, whether we notice it or not. Here lies the crux. In merely existing, every formation must strain to uphold its conditions. In the moment of being, it bears the pressure of continuing to be. In life itself, there is already a built-in endurance, a restlessness, a deep dissatisfaction. This is the suffering of formations, a subtle suffering needing no catastrophe, no dramatic event, simply the ever-present nature of all conditioned things. Maharishi Sayadaw explained, the suffering of formations is the suffering of ongoing operation. Because all formations are impermanent, they are not durable. Because they are not durable, they are insecure. Because they are insecure, they are suffering. Nothing in the conditioned realm persists by itself forever. Moment by moment, everything is dissolving, changing, fading, tending towards cessation. And to endure for even one more moment, it requires innumerable supporting conditions. The very need to depend on conditions, the inability to command the current of change. This is the suffering of formations. Look at this body. For it to exist, it must eat, drink, breathe, sleep, be treated in illness, move, and avoid danger. Without these, it weakens, falls ill, and dies. Merely having a body means tending, maintaining, serving it. Thus, having a body is a burden, a bond, a pressure. The young may not see this clearly, but the elderly, the sick, those halfway through life feel this fatigue increasingly day by day. The young see the body as a vehicle for enjoyment. The old see it as a source of aches, illness, and inconvenience. Because we must carry this body a lifetime, serve it, supply it, sustain it. The body is the suffering of formations. We need not wait for pain. Even in health, the body burdens us with the pressure of maintenance. Not only the body, but the mind too is a form of the suffering of formations. The mind does not stand still. Thoughts arise and pass incessantly. Emotions shift without cease. Moods rise and fall. Desires continuously stir. A quiet anxiety flows on in consciousness. Even in joy there is a strand of fear. In love, fear of loss. At the summit of success, fear of the fall. This mind that never truly rests, that is the suffering of formations. Ajahn taught, if you do not know how to still the mind, it will drag you your whole life. And being dragged is suffering. Indeed, the mind is like a machine that never stops, a river that never rests, a wheel that never ceases to turn. The more we chase it, the more exhausted we become. The more we try to grasp it, the more breathless we are. The necessity to run, to hold, to sustain, this is the root of the suffering of formations. Understanding this does not make us hate life, body, or mind. It makes us see the truth. Nothing is stable, nothing stands still, nothing is truly self-possessed. Seeing thus, the mind expects less, craves less, clings less. Seeing the suffering of formations, we stop. In stopping, calm begins. When the mind is calm, suffering lessens. The Buddha repeatedly emphasized the suffering of formations in the discourses, regarding it as a key to seeing the nature of suffering. In the Sammu Nikaya, he taught succinctly yet profoundly, Saban Karadukkha, all formations are suffering. A short sentence sufficient to shake every delusion and stir the contemplative to their roots. Here, formations are not merely actions, but all conditioned phenomena, all dependently arisen things, all that bears conditions. Because they are conditioned, they are not sovereign. Because not sovereign, insecure. Because insecure, suffering. In the very moment of being, a formation bears the pressure of sustaining its conditions for existence, and carrying that load is suffering. Arjantia illustrated this with a homely image, like holding a brimming basin of water. At first it feels light, but the longer you hold it, the heavier your arms become. You neither spill it nor set it down, and it grows heavier still. So it is with this body and this mind. The more we hold, the more we strain, the more we suffer. Simply having a body, a mind, a life means continual maintenance, protection, renewal, and that alone is a constant burden. In the Thapada, the Buddha also taught, all formations are impermanent, all formations are suffering. Seeing this with wisdom, the mind withdraws from suffering. This verse links the three marks: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Because impermanent, not durable. Because not durable, not a reliable refuge. Because not a refuge, there is insecurity, dissatisfaction, instability. That foundational instability is suffering. Not suffering from a single external cause, but suffering from the very mode of operation of all conditioned things. Maharishi Sada explained, all formations are suffering because all are in operation. To be in operation is not to stop, not to rest, not to stand still. Nothing is sovereign, nothing under control. And that non-sovereignty is suffering. It means we think we act, we control this body, this mind, this circumstance. But in truth, everything operates on its own according to dependent origination, according to the law of arising and ceasing, changing and decaying. No one can make it stop. No one can control it. Only by seeing this do we see deeply into the nature of suffering. Ajahn Chah told a story. Someone asked, "Is there any way to keep this mind still forever?" I said, "There is not. No more than you can keep a flame motionless. You cannot, because by its very nature it moves and changes. Wanting it to be forever still is suffering. Seeing that it is not still and not wanting it to be still is the end of suffering. Because the nature of formations is motion, change, and non-rest, the very act of clinging is suffering. The wish to preserve is suffering. The desire for stillness is suffering. Understanding the suffering of formations helps us stop dreaming of an unchanging state in the conditioned world. It helps us stop chasing an everlasting joy, a permanent success, a happiness that lasts for life. It helps us see that everything comes and goes, appears and dissolves, arises and transforms, and that the very fact of existence is already suffering. We need not wait for loss to feel pain. Even while we have, it is already a burden. On concluded, when you see that formations are suffering, you no longer demand that they not be suffering. Only when you no longer demand that do you find peace. This is the deepest letting go. Letting go not from aversion, but from clear seeing. Not from despair, but from understanding. Not from defeat, but from wisdom. So that the suffering of formations is no longer a distant concept. Look into the very experiences close at hand. It is not confined to books, nor felt only by monastics. It is present in every beat of ordinary life, each passing moment, every heartbeat. A child awaits a birthday. The day comes, the child blows out candles, laughs, receives gifts, revels in endless joy. Yet only hours later the joy already fades. The presents are opened, the cake is gone, the guests have left, and a strange emptiness creeps in. Is that all? The joy that just appeared has already begun to wane. This is the suffering of formations. Suffering even within joy, because that joy does not stand still, does not last, is not self-possessed. A person has just achieved great success, promotion, acclaim, praise. In that moment, happiness swells, pride rises. But only a few days later, a worry appears. Can I keep this position? Will someone surpass me? Will people keep praising me? Thus, the joy of achievement is paired with the fear of loss, the fear of failure, the unease about the future. This is precisely the suffering of formations, suffering in the midst of success, right inside happiness, because the nature of all things is change. Ajahn once compared joy to a candle. The brighter it burns, the nearer it is to going out. The more it shimmers, the more fragile it is. Hence, even in joy, a quiet worry resides. When will it extinguish? And as long as the mind clings to that joy, the worry remains. We do not suffer only when joy is gone. We suffer already while we have it, knowing we cannot keep it. A mother watches her child grow day by day. Each milestone brings inexpressible happiness, pride, and delight. But along with it comes a subtle sadness. The more the child grows, the farther from her arms. The more the child matures, the less the dependence. There will be a day the child lives apart, decides alone, has a life of their own, and the mother gently steps back into the role of quiet witness. That joy is joy in the very act of dissolving, a joy that contains the seed of parting. This is the suffering of formations. A person in deep love feels bliss at their beloved's side, but the deeper the love, the greater the fear of loss, the closer the bond, the stronger the anxiety, the more intense the feeling, the more vulnerable the heart. Each unanswered message, each missed call, each moment of inattention unsettles the mind. Suffering arises right in the midst of love, not because the other has harmed us, but because the love itself already carries worry, unease, and fear. This is the suffering of formations. Mahasiddha once said, "People assume that having happiness means the end of suffering, but they do not know that within happiness the seeds of suffering are already present. Because we want that happiness never to end. We want the person never to change. We want the status never to waver. We want the health never to decline. And that very wanting to keep is the source of suffering." Ajanta smiled. "Everything in life is like a ripe mango. Beautiful, delicious, and ripening toward spoilage. How could you keep it? We too live among innumerable ripe mangoes. Love, health, success, fame, wealth, all are beautiful, yet ripening toward decay. Because we want to keep, prolong, and make them unchanging, we bind ourselves to an impossible quest, a hopeless struggle. The very straining to keep, the doing to maintain, that is the suffering of formations. Understanding the suffering of formations does not erase joy. It makes joy truer, deeper, free of illusion. Seeing it helps us live in the world with a gentle smile, a grateful heart, and a non-clinging spirit. When we see the suffering of formations, we stop insisting, stop chasing, stop grasping, and begin to live more freely, lightly, and peacefully. Having examined layer by layer, direct suffering, the suffering of decay, and the suffering of formations, we can clearly see this. The suffering of formations is not merely one type of suffering. It is the foundational, pervading essence woven through all conditioned phenomena. If direct suffering is the obvious hurt, and the suffering of decay is the pain of dissolution, then the suffering of formations is the very suffering embedded in existence itself, in the operating nature of everything conditioned. Ajanta once said, "When you truly see the suffering of formations, you see the whole truth. Nothing left concealed, nothing left to cling to, nothing left to deceive you." For the suffering of formations does not appear only when you are in pain or when you lose. It is present from the very first instant of existence. In the very moment a thing arises, it is already bound to dependent origination, to ceaseless operation, to reliance on thousands of conditions, and thus already bears a burden, an insecurity, an unnamed suffering within. In the miscellaneous agamas, the Buddha taught, whatever has a rising and formation is subject to dissolution, and therefore is suffering. This verse encapsulates the essence of the suffering of formations. Because all phenomena arise from conditions, they are subject to decay. Therefore, existence itself is an unceasing process, a wheel that never stops turning. Nothing in the conditioned realm stands still, nothing is independent, nothing is sovereign. Consequently, nothing escapes suffering. Mahasi Sayadaw explains, the suffering of formations is not a particular pain, but a foundational, all-pervading suffering. To see the suffering of formations is to see the nature of all conditioned existence. There is nothing that can serve as a secure refuge. With this understanding, we cease clinging to anything in this world. We do not cling to body, to mind, to reputation, to gain, to love, to any phenomenon whatsoever. Ajanta reminds us, when you see the suffering of formations, you no longer demand that life go your way, you no longer blame when it does not, you no longer resent when things change, you smile because you know that is their nature. And that smile is the first step toward inner freedom, not freedom by fleeing the world, but freedom from being bound by illusion and from demanding the impossible. Seeing the suffering of formations, we understand there is no happiness that is woven tight, no joy that is permanent, no success that stands still, no love that is immutable. Everything is flowing, changing, transforming, dissolving. Thus, if we stake our happiness on such things, that happiness will be fragile, anxious, worried, and therefore suffering. Seeing this, we begin to turn in another direction, no longer seeking refuge in conditioned things, but aiming toward nibbana, the unconditioned, unborn, undying, not dependently arisen, not subject to decay. Ansha concluded, when you see that all formations are suffering, you will no longer seek happiness among formations. You will turn to seek happiness in what no longer arises and ceases. This opens the door to a new path, one that goes beyond arising and ceasing, beyond operation, beyond the cycle of becoming and the suffering of formations. Therefore, the suffering of formations is not bad news or a pessimistic fate, but a truth to be seen clearly so that delusion ends, clinging ends, and letting go can begin. We let go not out of discouragement, but out of wisdom, not out of disappointment, but out of clear seeing, not to run from life, but to live within it unbound. After journeying through the layers, levels, and depths of suffering, we can now look back at the whole picture, like one standing on a high summit and seeing the entire landscape, like a river already swum across. The Buddha pointed out 3 kinds of suffering: the suffering of pain, the suffering of decay, and the suffering of formations. These are not 3 separate torments, but 3 layers, 3 viewpoints, 3 depths of the same essence of suffering that pervades all conditioned phenomena. The suffering of pain is the most obvious and easy to see. The pains of body, of mind, of emotion. Birth, aging, illness, death, separation, failure, injury. Everyone sees it, experiences it, cannot avoid it. It is the outermost layer and the most readily recognized. The suffering of decay is the suffering of dissolution, change, loss. A person who is happy fears that happiness will fade. One who is wealthy worries about losing wealth. One who is in love fears losing the beloved. This suffering lies within joy itself, within happiness, within success, because all are decaying, moving toward dissolution moment by moment. And that very dissolution gives rise to worry, fear, and unease. The suffering of formations is the deepest, subtlest, most pervasive suffering. Right within the nature of every conditioned thing, in the very fact of conditioned existence, there is already a burden, already insecurity, already suffering. We need not wait for pain, need not wait for loss. Mere presence, mere existence, is already suffering. A tree needs light, water, soil. A human body needs food, rest, medical care. A mind needs satisfaction, comfort, recognition. Every existence must maintain its conditions, and this very must is the root of the suffering of formations. Ajanta said, when you understand the 3 kinds of suffering, you see the whole truth of life. Nothing is concealed, nothing is covered up, nothing remains to sustain an illusion. These 3 kinds of suffering do not stack up arithmetically. They are 3 entryways to the same nature. Suffering is the characteristic of all conditioned phenomena. Before we see them, we imagine that having happiness and suffering, having love brings fullness, having money ensures safety, having status guarantees security, having faith makes things unchanging. But when we clearly see each layer, each level, each depth, we realize that nothing escapes suffering. Joy exists, but is fragile. Happiness exists, but is not durable. Success exists, but is not certain. Love exists, but is not immutable. Everything is moving toward dissolution even as it exists. Mahasiddhartha explains, seeing the suffering of pain makes you more careful with life. Seeing the suffering of decay helps you let go a little. Seeing the suffering of formations lets you release at the root. For the suffering of formations is the essence, the foundation, the suffering not born of a single event, but of conditioned existence itself. No conditioned phenomenon escapes these 3 sufferings. Understanding them, we stop seeking lasting happiness in what is not tightly woven. We stop setting expectations on what is already unraveling. We stop clinging to what is never self-possessed. From there, a new doorway opens. A doorway that no longer seeks within the conditioned, no longer dreams within the impermanent, but turns toward a state beyond the three sufferings, beyond all arising and ceasing. Having seen the three sufferings clearly, the Buddha declared a great truth, vast and comprehensive, that gathers all the strands. All conditioned phenomena are suffering. This is not a pessimistic judgment or a world-weary pronouncement. It is a pointing out of reality's nature, a truth to see, to understand, to transcend. All conditioned phenomena means everything that arises from conditions. This body, this mind, these feelings, these thoughts, property, fame, status, power, love, happiness, success. Not a single phenomenon in the realm of arising and ceasing is excluded. All are dependently arisen, because dependently arisen, not durable, because not durable, insecure, because insecure, suffering. Ajahn says, wherever you look, you see suffering, not because the world is bad, but because this is its nature. Not because someone harms you, but because this is the law. Before we see this, we imagine there must be something lasting, something worthy of holding, something to lean on. Seeing clearly, we realize everything is changing, decaying, operating, dependent. Because it is dependent, conditioned, not sovereign, nothing escapes suffering. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches, all formations are impermanent, all formations are suffering, all phenomena are not self. This links the three marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. They cannot be separated. Because impermanent, therefore suffering, and because impermanent and suffering, therefore there is no true self, no unassailable mind. Understanding these three characteristics, we stop going astray. We stop seeking lasting happiness in what can never grant it. Mahasiso explains, seeing that all conditioned phenomena are suffering does not make us despair, it makes us lucid. Because by seeing, we cease to cling. By not clinging, we are free. Seeing that all is suffering, we no longer hope for peace from what is dissolving. We cease to place our trust in what is conditioned. We stop building houses upon sand. And from there, we incline the mind toward what lies beyond the conditioned, beyond arising and ceasing. Ajahn smiled. When you see that everything is suffering, you no longer blame anyone, no longer point fingers, no longer accuse life of being unfair. You simply see that this is its nature, and you let go. No more demands, no more expectations, no more clinging. The mind grows lighter and lighter until it is at ease amid a restless world. Thus, the teaching, all conditioned phenomena are suffering, is not to make us abandon the world or run away from life, but to live in the midst of life with deep seeing, a wide heart, and a non-clinging spirit. Not hating life, not weary of life, not despairing, but dwelling within life with the wisdom that sees clearly. Everything comes and goes, arises and ceases, gathers and disperses. Seeing this, we cherish each moment more, feel more grateful for what we have, release more lightly in the face of loss, and rest more serenely before inevitable change. A natural question may arise: if all conditioned phenomena are suffering, do heavenly realms suffer? Does merit suffer? Do wholesome things and sublime states of happiness encouraged in Buddhism also fall under this nature of suffering? The answer, according to the Buddhist teaching, is yes. Even the higher realms, even the joys born of merit, do not escape the nature of suffering, because they are still conditioned, still subject to causes, still impermanent, not durable, not sovereign. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha teaches that even the deities of the sensual, form, and formless realms do not escape impermanence, suffering, and decay. The happiness of heaven may be subtler, longer-lasting, greater than ordinary worldly pleasure, but it still depends on conditions. What depends on conditions is not durable. What is not durable is not sovereign. What is not sovereign is insecure, and that insecurity is suffering. Ajahn once said, "Climb higher, and you may see farther, but you still stand on a branch, and that branch is decaying. No one flies in the sky forever. The time comes to fall. A heavenly realm is like a stay in a luxury hotel. Beautiful, comfortable, pleasant, but still temporary, still a place you must leave, still not home." Mahasiso explains, merit is a good seed that yields good fruit, but that fruit also ripens, spoils, and passes away. merit does not escape impermanence. Because it does not escape impermanence, it cannot be a permanent refuge. This does not deny the value of merit or belittle it. It places merit in its proper place, good and necessary, but not the ultimate goal. Merit is like good food along the road. It sustains the journey, but it is not the final destination. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha reminds us, even the heavenly worlds are impermanent. Nothing in this life is everlasting. One who truly sees this does not cling to any realm. Someone who has not seen this might think, if the human world is suffering, do good deeds to be reborn in heaven. But one who sees clearly understands that wherever you go, you have not yet gone beyond suffering. Therefore, instead of merely accumulating merit for enjoyment, they use it as a means of cultivation, a foundation for developing wisdom to transcend even the three realms. Ajahn Chah taught, plant merit as one plants flowers, but know the flowers will fade. Do not be angry when they fade. Do not hurt when they fall. Do not cling while they bloom. Enjoy the flowers while knowing flower is flower. This vision helps us appreciate merit without depending on it. To do good without hoping merit will serve as a lasting refuge. Be grateful for wholesome things, but do not stop there. Thus, even the most beautiful and exalted aspects of the conditioned, heavenly realms, merit, meditative absorptions, are not outside the nature of suffering. Not suffering as in raw pain, but suffering as in non-sovereignty, non-durability, subjection to impermanence and decay. Therefore, only one place is free from suffering, that which lies beyond arising and ceasing, beyond the conditioned, beyond contingency, nibbana. Having seen the three kinds of suffering, and that all conditioned phenomena are suffering, the Buddha did not stop at pointing out this truth. He opened a path and indicated a place beyond suffering, nibbana. If all conditioned phenomena are suffering because they are contingent, impermanent, and decaying, then nibbana is the state that is unconditioned, unborn, unceasing, not fabricated, not made, not decaying, not changing. In the Udana, the Buddha proclaims a famous statement: there is the not born, not become, not made, not fabricated. If there were not this, there could be no escape from the born, become, made, fabricated. But because there is the not born, not become, not made, not fabricated, escape is possible from the born, become, made, fabricated. This scripture shines like a radiant light through the night of ignorance in Sasra. The Buddha did not merely speak about suffering or describe it. He indicated a safe harbor, a shore beyond suffering, nibbana. Nibbana is not a realm, not a hiding place, not an ordinary mental state. It is the complete absence of ignorance, craving, clinging, and arising and ceasing. Ansha once explained, nibbana is like space. You cannot seize it, describe it, or point at it with a finger. Yet because there is space, things can appear. Nibbana is not something added, but the absence. No fire, no smoke, no dust, no wind, no motion. Mahasasado taught, nibbana is the absence of all conditions. Therefore there is no impermanence, no decay, no change, no pressure of operation. Thus, in nibbana there is no suffering. Since all conditioned things are suffering due to dependence, only the undependent, the unconditioned, is free from suffering. For this reason nibbana is called the supreme peace, utter stillness, transcendent happiness. In the Sayutta Nikaya, the Buddha speaks of nibbana as the foremost, the sublime, the highest peace. Yet he also reminds us, nibbana cannot be seen with ordinary eyes, reached by imagination, or grasped by words. It can only be directly realized by wisdom. Nibbana is not a thesis to debate nor a doctrine to analyze. It is a living experience, a direct awakening. Anshu advised, do not imagine nibbana to be far away. It is here and now if your mind is free of greed, hatred, and delusion. As long as greed, hatred, and delusion remain, nibbana seems distant. In other words, nibbana is not a destination in space nor a moment in future time, but a state of inner stillness, a release from every chain of defilement, clinging, and delusion. When we see clearly that all conditioned phenomena are suffering, impermanent, and non-sovereign, the mind begins to let go, gradually releasing demands, attachments, and fixations. In that letting go, nibbana begins to open, not as a prize, but as a return to the mind's natural clarity when it is no longer astray. Ajahn smiled. Nibbana is not what you find. It is what appears when you stop searching. Precisely when you no longer seek happiness in what does not last, no longer chase what is already dissolving, no longer cling to what can never be kept, nibbana gradually reveals itself as a calm, unbound, silent depth, unshaken by anything. Once the nature is clearly seen, that all conditioned phenomena are suffering, that even heavenly realms are not exempt, that every happiness is fragile, that every achievement decays, that even this body and mind are not durable, a great question resounds in the heart of a practitioner. So what should be done? How do we be free from suffering? Is there a path that crosses beyond suffering? The Buddha did not leave us only a diagnosis. He also prescribed a remedy. That path is not vague, not blind belief, not a bestowed miracle, but a clear, practical, step-by-step training. Virtue, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panna, the Noble Eightfold Path. Ajahn said, the Eightfold Path is not 8 roads, it is one road with 8 factors. You cannot pick one and drop another. You walk them together, practice them at the same time. This is not an abstract philosophy, but a way of living. Living uprightly with right view and right intention, speaking truthfully with right speech, earning a livelihood honestly with right livelihood, acting without harm with right action, cultivating effort with right effort, abiding in clear remembrance with right mindfulness, and developing a calm, collected heart with right concentration. This is the path that carries one from delusion to awakening, from bondage to freedom, from suffering to peace. It is not a path of blind faith, but a path of seeing, understanding, practicing, and realizing. It is not a road someone else can walk for you. Each person must step, practice, contemplate, and verify for themselves. In the Sayutta Nikaya, the Buddha teaches, virtue is the foundation, concentration the support, wisdom the light. Virtue purifies the heart, concentration steadies it, wisdom illuminates the truth. When virtue, concentration, and wisdom work in harmony, the mind gradually releases clinging, abandons ignorance, and loosens each link of bondage and sasra. Mahasai's Tao explains, to end suffering, one cannot stop at theory, one must practice, must see, must contemplate, must directly experience. Only wisdom born of insight meditation can cut the root of suffering. For suffering does not come from outside. It arises from ignorance, craving, and clinging within. Only the light of wisdom dispels that darkness, revealing the nature of suffering, showing that nothing is worth clinging to, nothing worth identifying with, nothing a reliable refuge. Ajahn smiled. You do not need to search for a guide. The path is already under your feet. Each mindful step, each mindful word, each mindful thought is the living eightfold path. No need to wait for tomorrow or for the right conditions. Begin here and now, with this breath, this step, this intention. Thus, the teaching, all conditioned phenomena are suffering, is not for despair, not for pessimism, not to induce helplessness. On the contrary, it is the ground that arouses energy, resolve, and direction. Knowing that conditioned things are not a refuge, we stop seeking lasting happiness in what is inherently fragile. Instead, we turn toward peace that lies beyond arising and ceasing, beyond conditions, beyond suffering. Nibbana. On concludes, no one can grant you nibbana, no one can hand you freedom. But the path exists, you need only walk it. And the very walking, step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment, is the path that ends suffering and leads to peace, freedom, and release. When the truth of suffering is deeply understood, not as a concept, not as a recited phrase, but as something seen directly within, our life begins to change. That change does not come from forcing or from rigid willpower. It comes naturally, as flowers open when sunlight is enough, as a river flows when the ice has melted. One of the first changes is less clinging. Ansa taught, when you see all phenomena as suffering, you no longer grab them as mine, me, or self. When you let go, you do not lose. Rather, you gain freedom. Indeed, when you clearly see, This body is subject to suffering of pain, suffering of change, and suffering of conditioning. This property is subject to those same sufferings. This status too. Then you stop taking them as refuge, stop taking them as unchanging, stop taking them as the core of happiness. Understanding suffering, we cling less to the body, no longer obsessed with youth, beauty, and health, no longer frantic when hair turns gray, skin wrinkles, or the back bends. We know this body is decaying, moving toward disintegration, burdened by biological, environmental, and temporal conditions. Knowing this, we care for the body but do not identify with it. We use the body as a vehicle, not as a self. This vision lightens the load and reduces panic before the inescapable law. Understanding suffering, we cling less to possessions. We know wealth comes and goes, rises and falls, forms and dissolves. We no longer regard money, houses, and material things as an immutable mine. If we have them, we use them. If not, we let them go. We are careful without fear of loss. We enjoy moderately without dependence. We work diligently without fastening our happiness to results. Uncompared money to a snake. Hold it correctly and you are safe. Hold it wrongly and it bites. You need not throw it away. You only need to know how to hold it. Seeing this, we neither reject wealth nor become bound by it. Understanding suffering, we cling less to status, seeing that rank, fame, power, and recognition are conditioned, impermanent, and non-sovereign. Those who praise today may criticize tomorrow. Those who applaud today may abandon tomorrow. Gaining brings joy, losing brings sorrow. And so we are swept along by praise and blame, gain and loss, victory and defeat. Seeing this nature, we fulfill our responsibilities without making position our identity, without letting it define our worth, without letting it rule our happiness or pain. Mahasi's Tao teaches, when one sees that all phenomena are suffering, the heart loosens its grip naturally, without strain. Letting go is not giving up, not indifference, not resignation. It is awakening. Knowing that everything comes and goes, gathers and disperses, arises and ceases, and therefore cannot serve as a lasting hold. We no longer clutch, no longer hoard, no longer identify. And when we release, the heart is lighter, the mind more at ease, life simpler. Ajahn reminds us, when you put down a heavy load, you feel stronger. When you release a fixation, you feel lighter. When you let go of all clinging, you taste freedom. To understand, see, and acknowledge suffering is the first step toward freedom. No longer binding ourselves to what cannot be kept, no longer placing happiness in what is not sovereign, no longer identifying self with what is merely conditioned. When the teaching of suffering is understood deeply, not just in words but through inner contemplation, we not only cling less, but also desire less. Why? Because we clearly see that every desire based on what is unstable, non-sovereign, and unkeepable is the source of anxiety, pain, and disappointment. On once said, the more you want, the more you suffer. Want little, suffer little. Want nothing, suffer not. This is not a call to abandon effort, nor a denial of striving. It is a reminder to see clearly. Do not crave what runs against the nature of things. Do not crave what cannot endure. Do not seek happiness in what is not self-governed. Do not seek permanence in what is impermanent. Understanding suffering, we begin to live more simply. We stop chasing too many things, stop loading our life with unnecessary possessions, unnecessary responsibilities, unnecessary goals. We lessen the ambition to accumulate, lessen the craving for fame, lessen the comparisons of winning and losing, lessen the contests of victory and defeat. We no longer think we must have this to be happy, must achieve that to be joyful. Instead, we know what is enough. We know when to stop. We cherish what we already have. Mahasi's Tao taught, happiness does not come from having much, but from wanting little. The person with the fewest needs is the richest person. Indeed, one who understands suffering sees clearly. The more you wish to hold, the more you suffer. The more you wish to control, the more anxious you become. The more you crave recognition, the more exhausted you are. The more you want everything to follow your will, the more you are disappointed. Thus they do not abandon the world nor leave daily life, but live within it without drowning, without entanglement, without loading on more burdens of craving. Instead, life is like a snake. If you grasp it by the head, there is no problem. If you grasp it by the tail, it turns and bites. Craving is grabbing the tail. To see suffering is to see craving as the root of suffering. And when we see craving as the root, the heart naturally desires less, clings less, is less attached. We no longer place happiness on any particular form, result, or possession. We no longer wait to be happy only when we have enough. No longer wait to be at peace only when we have obtained. One who understands suffering will ask, "What is enough?" And will answer, "Enough is not needing more." Seeing this clearly, they gradually release unnecessary desires. They live with enough to use, enough to eat, enough to wear, enough safety, enough means. They do not waste, do not hoard without limit, do not chase trends. They choose simplicity not because of poverty, but because they see that the more we stockpile, the more dependent we become. The more dependent, the less sovereign. The less sovereign, the more suffering. Ajahn advised, living simply is not poverty. It is wealth in the deepest way. Because you own no one, you own not even yourself. You own nothing to your ambitions. And precisely this simple life opens a vast inner space, a lightness, an ease, a freedom nothing can buy. Understanding suffering, we stop craving what cannot truly satisfy. We pause not out of discouragement, but from seeing the limits of conditioned things. We release not because we failed, but because there is nothing left worth clinging to. We choose simplicity not from lack, but from a sense of enough. In that seeing, a deep joy and an unconditional peace begin to blossom. One of the most profound results of understanding the teaching of suffering is that compassion is naturally nourished, deep, and unforced. Why? Because when we clearly see that all conditioned phenomena are suffering, that everyone bears the three kinds of suffering: suffering of pain, suffering of change, and suffering of conditioning, we no longer see anyone as an enemy, no longer see anyone as an opposite, no longer see anyone as hateful. We simply see that person as suffering too, just as we are. Ansha once said, "When you see another in pain, do not rush to blame, do not rush to judge. Remember they too are bearing the three kinds of suffering as you are: an angry person, a selfish person, a greedy person." If we do not see the roots of such actions, we easily flare up, judge, and look down on them. But seeing more deeply, we understand they are suffering too. They suffer because they do not see the cause. They suffer because they do not see a way out. They suffer because they are repeating the circular patterns of greed, aversion, and delusion. Understanding suffering, we look at others with gentle eyes, a spacious heart, and forbearance. We no longer expect perfection from people, no longer demand they be without fault, no longer wait for them to treat us well first before we respond. We understand each person is a journey, a circumstance, a treasury of experiences and pains, no two alike. Because we understand this, we find it easier to empathize, to forgive, to share. Mahashio taught, compassion is not pity. It is deep empathy, seeing that others carry the same burdens we do. That very empathy becomes the motivation to help, to be tolerant, to avoid adding burdens to anyone's life. A soft word, a warm gesture, a listening ear is compassion. No need to do grand things, no need to save the world. Simply causing less suffering to others is already sowing the seeds of compassion. On said, do not wait for the world to be perfect to love. Do not wait for someone to be good to be compassionate. Begin right where you are, right now, in this very situation. Understanding suffering, we do not wait for ideal conditions to open the heart. Knowing everyone is suffering, everyone is fumbling, everyone is looking for a little ease, we refuse to add fire to suffering, refuse to pour oil on anger, refuse to wield a blade upon rage. We choose to sow a light seed, offer a smile, a look of understanding, an outstretched hand. Understanding suffering, we cease to place ourselves at the center. We no longer see our own suffering as unique, special, greater than all. We see ourselves as only a small stream in the ocean of suffering. Seeing this, we share our waters, share the load, heed the cries of others. We no longer confine ourselves to the cramped space of self, but open to the vastness of us. Ajahn reminded, you do not need to do anything grand. Just do not make anyone suffer more. Just refrain from what harms. Just keep a clear heart, and that is enough. And that very enough is the root of lasting happiness. A happiness that comes not from possession, not from achievement, not from victory, but from a gentle heart, a wide gaze, and a hand that does not clutch. When the teaching of suffering is understood deeply, we do more than cling less, desire less, and cultivate compassion. We also grow a vital quality, patience on the path. Why? Because we see that the nature of suffering is not a temporary issue, not a singular pain, but the very nature of all conditioned things. Because that nature runs deep, transformation cannot happen overnight. Untaught. Seeing suffering is the beginning of seeing the path, but to walk the path requires patience. A long road cannot be sprinted. There are stretches uphill and downhill, sunny and rainy, but do not stop. Precisely because we understand suffering, we no longer demand immediate results, no longer expect instant miracles, no longer grow impatient when aims are not yet attained. We know this journey is a long process, step by step, day by day, breath by breath. Mahasiddhartha explained, practice is not the search for pleasant feelings, but the clear seeing of suffering right within the practice itself. Indeed, when we sit, we meet aching legs, a sore back, boredom, sleepiness, wandering thoughts. All these experiences are suffering. And when we look straight at that suffering without running, without hiding, without irritation, we begin to see the true nature of body and mind. Because we see, we release. Because we see, we find peace. On Recounted, someone asked me, "How long have you been meditating?" I replied, "Long enough to know it isn't long." They asked again, "What have you attained?" I replied, "The attainment of not needing to attain anything." This is patience not for the sake of reaching a specific result, but patience to live each moment fully, patience to face each sensation, patience to see each phenomenon arising and passing right within this very body and mind. Understanding suffering, we no longer fear suffering, no longer hate it, no longer wish for it to vanish instantly. We understand, suffering is a sign of truth. Suffering is a reminder that this is the nature of the conditioned. Do not flee suffering, but see it. Do not suppress suffering, but comprehend it. And precisely that comprehension opens the door beyond suffering. Unreminded, do not expect the path of practice to be a straight line. It meanders, it's rugged, some stretches hard, some easy. But if you keep walking, you eventually arrive. If you keep stopping, you stand still forever. When we understand suffering, we no longer want to quit halfway, no longer lose heart at difficulties. Because we know these very difficulties are an indispensable part of the path. This very suffering is where we practice. This very suffering is the opportunity for awakening. Mahasiddhartha affirmed, there is no awakening that does not pass through suffering, no liberation without seeing suffering, no freedom without touching suffering. Therefore, each time we meet hardship in practice, each time we face trials in life, instead of blaming, grieving, or discouraging ourselves, we remind ourselves, this is an opportunity, this is a lesson, this is the time to look more deeply. Unconcluded, the path of practice is neither long nor short. It is long when you crave speed. It is short when you crave nothing. Just take one step after another. And each step is one step closer to the truth. Each step is one more letting go. Each step is 1 degree lighter. Each step is one step nearer to freedom. After all we have understood, seen, and contemplated, the most important thing does not lie in knowledge, in reasoning, or in how many suttas we remember, but in this. Have we turned back and looked into ourselves yet? For all teachings, all instructions of the Buddha ultimately point straight to this very mind, to what is happening right now, upon this body and mind in the present moment. Ajahn advised, if you do not look into yourself, you will never see. There is no other path. No one can walk for you. No one can see for you. And looking into oneself is not to seek something far off, lofty, or mysterious. Just look at the feeling that is arising, the emotion that is present, the thought that is flowing by. No judging, no suppressing, no chasing. Just look, just see, just note. Understanding suffering, we begin to observe. Is this sensation pleasant or unpleasant? When pleasant, does the mind generate craving? When unpleasant, does the mind generate aversion? When neither pleasant nor unpleasant, does the mind wander? Just to see that much, just to know that much, is already to be on the path, already nearer to the truth, already loosening the illusions of attachment and clinging. Mahasi's Seo taught, contemplate body in the body, feeling in feelings, mind in the mind, phenomena in phenomena. These 4 foundations of mindfulness are not a ritual or a fixed technique, but a way of living awake, a deep way of seeing, an attitude of living with what is occurring. Each time we look at a feeling is a time we understand suffering. Each time we recognize a contact is a time we see suffering. Each time we observe a thought is a time we see the root of suffering. And each such time is a step closer to the truth. Ajahn reminded, do not expect to see anything grand. Do not wait for something miraculous. Just see clearly what is present, the smallest, the most ordinary. That itself is the miracle. Indeed, the miracle is not in perceiving something strange, but in seeing the nature of the familiar, seeing impermanence in each breath, seeing suffering in each contact, seeing non-self in each thought. Each seeing chips away at ignorance. Each seeing, and seeing while releasing clinging, is one step nearer to freedom. Understanding suffering, we no longer want practice as an achievement, nor awakening as a prize. We simply see that each day we look back into ourselves. Each day we recognize body, feeling, mind, and phenomena. Each day we cling a little less. Each day the heart grows a little lighter. That already is a beautiful journey. No need for speed, no need for much, no need for prominence. Only truthfulness, sufficiency, steadiness. Ajahn said, you do not need to go anywhere. You do not need to become anyone. You only need to see clearly where you are standing, see clearly what is present. That is enough. And in that clear seeing, all conditioned things gradually reveal their nature of suffering. Seeing that nature, the mind releases by itself. It does not release because it must, but because it sees there is nothing left to hold. And when it releases, freedom is present, peace is present, a stillness appears right here, right now, in this very moment. The teaching of suffering is like a deep doorway, a long road, a bell of awakening that resounds through every layer of delusion. The Buddha pointed out this truth not to plunge us into despair or darkness, but to open an exit, a genuine confidence, an opportunity for release. Yet this teaching cannot be grasped fully by intellect alone. It cannot be possessed by a single hearing or a single reading. Ankara once said, the Dhamma is not in books. The Dhamma is in this very body and mind. Reading books is one part, but reading body and mind, that is the way. Therefore, no matter how detailed, systematic, or accessible this essay tries to be, it is only a lamp for the first steps. The real light lies in every act of contemplation, every deep look, every observation of oneself, every encounter with suffering within the ordinary moments of life. Mahasi advised, do not expect to understand at once, do not expect to attain at once. Be patient, be persevering. Each time you listen, each time you read, each time you contemplate is one step nearer to the truth. The teaching of suffering is not for a hasty mind, not for a superficial gaze, not for someone merely seeking temporary pleasure. It requires an open heart, patience, reverence, and humility before a truth beyond language and concept. Ajahn encouraged, you do not need to understand it all right now. You only need to begin to look, begin to listen, begin to observe, and then, little by little, the truth will reveal itself. There is no need to drag it out, no need to force it. Only stay, only be present. That is the invitation. Keep studying, keep practicing, keep listening, keep contemplating. Not out of a rush to arrive somewhere, not out of a hunger for recognition, but from a sincere wish to see, to understand, to let go. Every step on this path, however small, however slow, however seemingly insignificant, is a step closer to the truth. Every moment of deep looking, even a brief one, is one more measure of release. And one day, looking back, we find there is nothing left to hold, nothing left to lose, nothing left to defend. Only freedom is present, peace is present, a quiet that does not waver, does not depend, does not crave. On smile gently, When you no longer want to hold on to anything, you have everything. When you no longer fear losing anything, you are free. And that freedom is the doorway opened by understanding suffering, seeing suffering, fathoming suffering, and releasing suffering. Right within suffering, one finds the path. In the midst of suffering, one finds liberation. Within suffering itself, one recognizes freedom.